Hello, welcome everyone to the Global Summit I Am Possible, an event to inspire you to have the courage to be who you truly are so we can together create a heart centered revolution, a world where everyone is possible. My name is Mar Guerrero. I'm the founder of Alma Alchemy, and today I have the honor to have with us Star Wolf, who is my teacher and who is the creator of Shamanic Breathwork. And this is a work that is very dear to my heart. So I'm very happy to be able for Spanish speaking people to have access to this and for English speakers who don't know this work because it has been such a transformational journey in my own life. And Star Wolf is also the author of 11 books and the founder of Venus Rising. Welcome, Star Wolf.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on the program with you today.
Thank you. So I would love you to start with your own personal journey briefly, like what took you to create shamanic breathwork, and also like why are you possible? Like how are you possible?
If it's okay with you, beautiful, what I would love to do is I would love to smudge.
Of course.
And for me, all the work that I do is ceremonial work. And even though my background is in psychology and therapy and counseling for many years, over the last 30 years, I've also been doing breath work and ceremonies. And so to really invite people in to the ceremony of this time together. So I'm going to light just a little sage here and bring the smoke to people for people who may not know what that is. Um, it's about bringing the smoke for purification. It's a cleansing of the auric field and of the body, of the mind, the spirit. And it also summons the spirits. It summons the great mystery, spirit guides, angels, helpers, whatever it is that you believe in and that believes in you. And it says, I am here and I'm available. I'm making space and time. And I have this beautiful feather gifted to me by Vera Lopez, my co author of our new book, actually, on the Shamanic Mysteries of Peru, which just came out. So I want to use her feather today that she gifted me and to send this smoke to all of you. So wherever you are, take a big deep breath, and perhaps you can feel and smell this smoke coming to you through the ethers, coming through time and space. We all know that we can touch each other with our love, with our prayers, with our ceremonies. So let the smoke come to you and let it cleanse your energy field and release anything and any distractions, anything that would stand in your way of being fully present during our time together. And that's why I really like to begin this way so that I can let everything drop away. And, I'm still busy with everything that's going on in my life. And so right now I want to be fully present with all of you. So thank you for that. It's the way I like to begin. And I've found that people have said to me the smudging was so powerful for them that they actually felt they could smell it or they could sense it or they could feel that something shifted in their field. And during this time, I also, because I am a shamanic worker, I like to call in, and as well as releasing things, I like to call in the things that love us, which is a lot. The universe, the cosmos, the great mystery, the great spirit, the spirit keepers of all directions, all of our ancestors. There's so many things, spirit guides and helpers, celestial beings, angels, everything. We call in everything that loves us to be with us, to walk with us, to vision with us, and to support us on our journey. Aho.
Aho.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. It just changes the molecules. It just changes the atoms. It changes everything when we stop into and just drop into ceremonial space. And then it begins to be a direct connection with people. Even though we're in the world of technology, all that drops away and actually becomes part of it, you know, to help teleport the energies to people and frequencies. I might not be able to smudge people. I can, you know, with them knowing it, but now we can smudge and they can feel that come towards them. So in regards to your question, you know, first of all, I believe in your topic very much that everything is possible for all of us, you know, that it truly is, that we were born, you know, we were born, as there's a pop singer in the United States, Lady Gaga, and she sings a song that says, "Baby, we were born this way." And I believe we were all born with a genius inside of us. We were all born with something specifically, maybe many things, but something specifically that we are gifted and talented. It's in our DNA, it's in our bodies, it's in our minds, it's in our spirits. And we came here to connect with the family of origin, our parents, our community, our religions, whatever was in our culture, to receive the gifts of both wounding and the gift also of the healing of those wounds, and to allow ourselves to be influenced by those influences, to take them on, even the shadows, so that at some day, at some point, that we awaken. And when we awaken, then we begin to do the healing. The awakening is the beginning of the healing. And we begin to do the healing of our lives and of our ancestors' lives and of our families and our society and culture. So I have to say that first before I really speak about me, because that gives it some context. In that, for myself, I believe that all children are magical. We're all born seeing and feeling things and sensing things. How could we not be? We just came from the other world of spirit, and we come in and we're wide open. You know, we can't see very well in this world yet because we're seeing the cosmos and we're hearing the sounds of the angels where we just came from, you know. So we come in this vulnerable, open state, and we're very sensitive. And as an only child and growing up in the deep South in the United States and growing up on the farm at my grandmother's home, my grandmother and grandfather, my parents worked every day. I was in nature every day and barefoot and with animals on the farm and with the spirits. And my grandmother was Baptist, but I always say she was a Celtic Baptist. Her family came from Scotland and Ireland, and she, you know, prayed to Jesus and the fairies and the aliens all at the same time. So at night, when my grandfather, who worked in the coal mines at night to make extra money, my grandmother and I would sneak out and sit out in the garden under the stars and call on the ones she said that lived on the stars. And it seems like at times we would see them move across the sky and things like that in my memory, you know. And so we would also plant the garden, and she would call upon the spirits of the garden to, you know, protect the crops, and so there would be plenty of food to eat and that sort of thing. And at the same time, then she'd ask Jesus to help too. So there was this, it was all mixed in, and it wasn't separate from me. So I was often said at school that I was a daydreamer, or that I was, you know, not really present, and that's probably true. I didn't feel comfortable in school. I felt awkward and different, and it felt abnormal to sit on a hard bench and a hard stool all day when I was a little girl and listening to these teachers. And, you know, at 5, I started school when I was 5. So it just felt strange. And it took me a long time before I actually figured out you know, what I was supposed to be doing in school, because I felt like that I was more like I was in prison is really how it felt. And I wonder if a lot of children feel like that, you know. And so, and it was a very, you know, traditional little school, you know, and with a lot of kids and a lot of screaming kids and teachers that were upset and things like that, and not very good teachers. So I was a child that was born in 1952, and I came of age in the 1960s. Which was, so I'm going to skip over a little bit. I had this magical grandmother who kept me innocent in some ways and believing in things a long time, you know, before society could tear that down. And then about the time they started to really tear it down, the 60s came along. And the Beatles came to the United States. I think I was 12 years old when they came to the United States. And hippies broke out everywhere, all around the world, but especially in the United States and England. And I immediately said, yes, that I can sign up for. So I immediately became a hippie and identified myself with a hippie with a headband and, you know, but everything else that goes along with that too, with the wonderful music, but also some of the drug culture, you know, and specifically, you know, psychedelics. And in my psychedelic energy use, I had some beautiful journeys, but then also I think, you know, I tore down some of the protective shields, which there were not many already. And I actually, at a very young age, when I was um, because I graduated early from school when I was 17, and I was in college just really young. And I decided I was going to be a social worker and change the world. And I moved into a commune, you know, and was going to be a social worker. And I was protesting the war and marching in the streets for women's rights and racial freedom and love who you love and all those things that we fought for that at that time, which is making another swoop through the loop right now in the world. But we're right on the forefront, right on the forefront of everything. And in that, I had a breakdown from the substances and from I think from my tender, wide open consciousness. So I'm just going to speed this up. I just wanted to get the first part, but to speed that up is for me, what happened after that is I started having to find a way to ground myself because I was so blown out and so wide open, and spent a few days in the mental hospital. You know, they wanted to put me on medication. I didn't, you know, I didn't take it. And I realized that I was one who could not continue to do drugs or alcohol of any kind, even the psychedelics. It's like I was already there. I didn't really need it. And so in my 20s, I spent that time getting sober, as we say. I attended 12-step programs. And I started reading every metaphysical book I could get my hands on about reincarnation, Easter Island, travels around the world. There was no internet, of course. You know, it was just libraries and encyclopedias. So I'm reading everything I can find. And I'm also beginning to practice uh, out of body travel and all kinds of things while also trying to ground and be sober. I'm going to swoop up now into my 30s and 40s, and that's when I found breath work. Now, I was already doing transcendental meditation because the Beatles did it with the Maharishi, but I got serious about it in my 30s, about meditation, about breath work. Started doing breath work with Stan Groff and holotropic breath work, with Jacqueline Small and integrative breath work. And then I became the lead trainer in my 30s with Jacqueline Small's Eusychia Institute. And we've trained a lot of people during that time. And at the same time, I had the good fortune, I had a really close friend who was Cherokee, and we started doing private sweat lodges just together by ourselves. And then she did a journey with me that led me to my spiritual grandmother, Grandmother Twilanit, to the Seneca Nation. And grandmother initiated me into her mystery school. So I've had this long journey of really learning how to be human, how to get here. I think that's what we all do. But then after becoming too human almost, remembering how to bring back the magic and bring back the soul retrieval of how to work in the spiritual world, and that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that we need a marriage of the human and the spirit. So there's, plenty of story after that I'm not going to go into right now, but just to say that from that, in my 30s and 40s, it birthed me into a new life. It birthed me into leading the mental health and addictions field that I had become a leader in, and taking those tools and gifts, but integrating them into the shamanic world, and trusting that the world was ready for me, was ready for, if you will, the Aquarian shaman, the modern day shaman, that was bringing the best of the ancient wisdom into modern day consciousness. And that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years, solely doing that, which meant also creating my own company, Venus Rising Association for Transformation, and my own university and my own ministerial training program, and doing a lot of writing and a lot of traveling. So that's a mouthful, that I've had a good, full, rich life so far. And I wanted to just kind of get the big picture of who it is that I am and what it is that I do, and that I feel full on in my sacred purpose. And I absolutely, absolutely, by the grace of God, great spirit, great mystery, I have absolutely accomplished already the impossible. And so much more to come.
Yes. I love that. I love that. It's such a good example, right? That, and also like the piece, the grounding, I think for the next year, for people who are listening to us, is with so much of creating energy that is coming up, so important to also like expand the consciousness that we are still here, right? We still have a body, and we still need to take care of it and to take care of the land. So thank you so much. And then I would love you to share more about the shamanic breathwork. What is it and how it can help us to discover our own sacred gifts and calling?
Well, it's so simple that it's almost invisible, the breath, because it's the one thing that's with us from the very beginning of our life. It's the first thing that we get to experience is, as a human, we come out of our mamas and we have to take that first breath so that we can be embodied and can open our eyes and look around. It's like we take that breath and say yes to life. And along the way, between that breath and the very last exhale, the last breath that we take, which ends human life, we have entering life and exiting life, and then all these breaths in between, which we call life itself. Our life is measured by our breath. How many breaths we take, not days, not hours, how many breaths we take from the first to the last. And it's the thing that's with us. We could lose an arm, we could lose an eye, we could lose all kinds of things. And we still breathe, we're still human, we're still here. But when we lose the breath, we're complete, we're finished. So it's so obvious to me that the breath is the most important thing that human beings have, that we possess, and that it's meant to be embodied. And that the more we breathe and the more we exhale and more we take this breath in, the more prana we have, the more life force energy we have, the more Shakti we have. I mean, our energy centers are activated. So when I started practicing, the first breaths I ever practiced was meditative. So that showed me how to relax, how to clear my mind, how to do creative visualization was the next thing I did, how to visualize, and that if we can breathe and visualize and really see that vision, that we can actually see sometimes how to get to where we're going or what blocks are in the way. We begin to have visions, right? We have inner knowing. Something starts happening and speaking to us that's different than our everyday, ordinary consciousness. And then I started breathing and doing breath work with people who were using the breath, kind of like the science of mind, or like the yogis using the Kundalini breath, like Paramahansa Yogananda and others that had come over from the East to the United States that had taught these breathing techniques. And now we're being incorporated into rebirthing. People were creating things called rebirthing. Leonard Orr, who was a friend of mine, and Stan Groff, who had started the holotropic breath work, and Jacqueline Small, who created the integrative. And those core teachers, there were only 3 or 4 teachers teaching at that time breath work, And what happened is we started working with the breath and finding that this deeper breathing, and people had different techniques and different ways to breathe, but a deeper full-bodied breathing would elicit emotional responses and somehow take you, it seems like, almost to exactly the place that maybe you've been working in 5 years in therapy to get to in one session. And I can say that because I've worked with people, for a long time with major issues. And then I also have breathed people, and I've watched people in one session to get someplace. Somebody else, it was a year of weekly sessions. And it was like, wow, what does this mean? What does this mean? And what I began to understand is that the breath is really not just air. That the breath, just as in almost every major religion, the name for breath and spirit, it means the same thing. The breath of life and spirit means the same thing. So this sacred breath is God's spirit. It's Goddess's spirit. It's Creator's spirit breathing out into us. And some say that the breath is so long that when the Creator breathes in again, is when you go back home. Breathing you out to have this human experience. And when it's your time, inhaling and bringing you back home. So in essence, I really feel that we are the breath of the divine in human form. So shamanic breathwork is really based on that. It's really based on the shamanic world of spirits and understanding that it must be sacred to have a human experience. We're not born in sin, we're born in blessing. The Creator births us as its children in blessing, not in sin. There's nothing to be saved from, except ourselves sometimes. But that breath was so powerful, and I understood that this was the shamanic world of the spirits, of the great ones, of the great mystery, and that working with the elements of water and earth and fire and air to become fully human, because we are all of those elements, was something that could bring us mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. So I started on the path of really working with Native elders in the United States, but that also led me to Peru to work with the elders there, to go to South Africa, to go to Mexico, Bali, and to work with priests and priestesses from around the world, as well as here in the United States with the Native American and especially Grandmother Twyla Nitsch of the Seneca Nation. But everywhere I went, the teachings basically, when you came right down to it, were the same. They're about the water and the earth, the fire and the air, and the spirit that guides those elements. So as I was branching out and if I guess you could say birthing myself at the back end of my 30s there, I knew that it was time for me to bring something new into the world, but something that wasn't so new. More of going back and getting the shamanic world, and then also bringing the breath as a part of that. And just one day it popped into my head and my mind, shamanic breathwork. And I have to just tell you a little funny thing here. At that time, 30 some years ago, there were about 3 people in the world that I even knew of who were doing anything shamanic. Truly. I mean, that were, not living out in a tribe somewhere. And every time I would say the word shamanic, no one knew what it meant. No one had a clue what it meant. And so I found myself constantly explaining. Um, but anyway, I'd say, well, don't worry about what its name is, just do it. So they would do it. They would come in like, well, I don't know what this is, but they would do the practice and they would get up and go, oh my God, that is the most amazing experience I ever had. So over time, I developed I called it the shamanic breathwork process. But after a little while, I realized that that's kind of how I put it out to the world, that it's a shamanic breathwork process. But what I really knew is that it was a ceremony. I knew that it was a ceremony from long ago and that it was being resurrected through me. So I protected that. I really held it close. I protected it. And then I knew I wanted to train other people to do it, not only to breathe, but to help other people and how to set a safe container, because it does take you into an altered state and you are vulnerable. And I wanted to ensure that people who were leading people on transcendental journeys and shamanic journeys were being responsible and taking people like yourself, that you take people, use this, and you're trained to do this and to take people into these journeys with integrity. So I will share this one last thing. When I first started doing all the breath work and was leaving my job, my stable job at the hospital and the clinics and things like that, and mental health centers, my mother said to me, I cannot believe that you're throwing away your education and that you're quitting all of this to go teach people to have breathe. Who will ever pay you to breathe? And now my mom's 89, and now she goes, I don't understand it, but it must be really good because you have all these people everywhere. She says, but I just don't understand it, but that, I would have never understood it.
I love that. I love that because it's kind of like, it's also where so many people are now, that there is something within them emerging, and then there is the fear as well of like, how I'm going to make a living out of this, like these impossible dreams that are what the world needs so
Yes.
urgently now. So, and it's going to look different for every person. And there is something that I need to share, like within this, because I have taken the trainings, and in Teotihuacan last year, I was looking at the floor of the people who were there breathing, and there was so much energy. And I was just feeling like only with this bunch of people, we could change the world.
Yes.
And this summit wouldn't be possible if I didn't do that training in Mexico, if I didn't get shamanic breathwork, if I wasn't in that field, because it was all about the courage to be able to stand up a little bit and be visible. And there is so much there. Like in the first session, I share that it's kind of like, is the energy of Teotihuacan, I feel, is still like it has been the whole 2020, and is still here, and it's something that is calling also more people. And I always love when you say, like, if you show up, is that you said yes to your calling, and now so many people are being called in different ways. So I thank you so much for creating shamanic breathwork, because it's like you are saying like, what is your experience of creating it, right? But for me, like receiving it and also like sharing it with other people is just beautiful. And so thank you. And this summit is possible. Thank you. Thanks to Shamanic Breathwork and to you. And also there is another energy that is very strong in the summit, that has been the grandmother energy, how we need those elders. And I haven't had that experience in this life, because I only had one grandmother alive when I was born, and she is a little bit detached. So I didn't have that elder in my life. And one came in a journey in Teotihuacan, and she has been very strong for a while. And it's something that socially we need so much. And so I would love you to talk a little bit about grandmother Twilight and what was her role in your
Yeah.
life and your own, yes, grandmother energy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. First of all, I'm going to say that grandmother energy saved my life. If it had not have been for my original grandmother when I was a little girl and an only child, and who saw me and understood who I was, she had other grandchildren too, but she got who I was, and she loved us all. But she knew that I would not make it if she didn't ground me in nature and also help me deal with the spirits that I was dealing with. So my grandmother, and she passed early. When I was 12 years old, and that's I think one of the reasons I went down some of the roads that I did, because I was in pain and suffering after she left. But it was also perfect in many ways. But so that grandmother energy, I called her Mammy Jones. That energy saved my life, and she carried it. She was very strong. She was, protective, and she was strong and gentle and wild and great sense of humor and loved animals and nature. We ran around barefoot all day in the woods and the farm, and so that really, really was the grounding that helped me be on this earth and survive in my early years. And the reason that I found the grandmother Twyla that I found, is because with my friend Teresa, who's Cherokee, um, we did a we did some sweat lodges and things together, and she was doing a healing journey for me. And she said, you talk about your grandmother so much, and you still see, now at this point I'm in my early 30s, and she's telling me, she said, you are still that spirit, you're still missing that spirit, and we need to call in a grandmother to help you. And so she did a journey with me, and at that time it was tape recorders. She recorded the journey on a tape, and she said, now take this journey and listen to it every day and call a grandmother to you. So I was actually lying down on my bedroom floor, and where I lived at that time in Kentucky. And every day when I would get home from work, I'd go and take some quiet time, and I would lie down on the floor and I would listen to this tape. And on this particular day, I went to sleep. I fell asleep, except really what I fell into was more of a trance. Okay. And when I went into that trance, I saw a person that came, but I couldn't see her. And then I had my head on her lap, and she was stroking my head and saying, "My gentle wolf, my gentle star wolf." And I knew she was talking to me, and I didn't know why she was calling me a wolf or star wolf. And I could feel her, and I felt this immense love and protection in this underground cave. And I knew that this energy was like the energy I'd had with my grandmother when I was a little girl. And then I looked up in my vision, and I saw this beautiful face of this older grandmother with this beautiful skin and eyes and this long white hair and these braids. And she was smiling at me. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, this is the vision I'm supposed to have. And immediately it disappeared. So I came out of that, and it's a kind of a long story, so I'm going to speed it up, in that it took me a while. Again, no internet, no Google, you know, this is day of corded phones. All right. So um, I didn't know how to find this being. And when I told my friend Teresa, she said, it sounds like it might be this grandmother up in New York on the reservation there that I've heard of. She's a Wolf Clan grandmother, you know. But again, I lived in Kentucky. Nobody traveled the way they do now. You were lucky to get a 2-week vacation and go for, that didn't know. So it took a little while. It took a couple of years before I was actually able to find her. And what I did was I pulled up uh, she'd said that it was a Cattaraugus Indian reservation outside of New York, and she said that might be who you're thinking of. So I just dialed information and said New York, and got it. And I just said, um, and I said the Cattaraugus reservation, and then they said who, and I said Twyla Nitch, and they gave me a phone number. which I then dialed. And somebody answered the phone. And when they answered, I said, hello, could I? And I didn't know. I just said, could I didn't know if I had the right number. I said, could I? Because it didn't say Twyla niche, it said T niche. But I wasn't sure. It had several niches. So she answered the phone and said, who would you like to speak to? I said, grandmother Twyla niche. She said, hold on a moment. And then a few minutes later, she came back and she said, grandmother wants you to come here. Without, and I said, would you tell her that it's Star Wolf? She said, she knows who it is and she wants you to come. And I was just like, oh my God. And I'm like, well, I have a full-time job and I have a husband and I have a child and I live a long ways away and I don't have a lot of money. And she said, well, she wants you to come. So I made it. I just like a short time later, I was there. And when she walked out of the house out on the reservation and I walked up to her, it was the same woman in my vision. And she looked at me and I looked at her. And I said, hello. And she said, I gave you your name. What is your name? And I said, Star Wolf. And she said, that's right. And then I said, I kind of stood there for a minute. And then she said, and I gave it to you in an underground kiva, in case I was doubting, and I said, oh, and she said, so come on in, let's get started. So it was very powerful experience to have this grandmother. And it turns out that if my grandmother had lived, she would have been exactly the same age by 2 days difference. They were born in the same year. And one was born, December 5th, and one was 3 days difference. One was December 5th, and the other was December 8th. And it would have been the same age. And she had so much the same energy. We're all three Sagittarians. I'm also December born. So when in my 30s, she told me, she said, time is growing short on the planet, and you must become a grandmother early. You need to be a grandmother now. And I became grandmother by the time I was 40. And so I have 11 grandchildren. And I'm very much a grandmother, and I have mothered and grandmothered thousands of people around the world, as you know.
Yes.
I mean, we're in Mexico. I think we had 17 countries or something I represented. Something like that. I don't remember exactly, but so I'm carrying that lineage forward. I'm passing it forward. So like to people like you, I say to you, it's time to mother and grandmother this world. We have a lot of lost children of all ages.
Yeah, and this is why, like, when I was coming up with the name of the summit, besides impossible, is nurturing the heart of a heart center revolution, because there is this revolution happening, right? Like, we are seeing that the system is not working, that we are putting children in these boxes, as you said, that we are just taking away their spark, their magic, and
yes,
their passion, and it's just heartbreaking. So we are all feeling this, but there is this danger of going all the way to the other side, to just fight against everything without
yes.
any reason, without a ground. And I feel that nurturing energy of, like, yeah, of course we want things to change, but how? And how do we do it with that grandmother strong presence of knowing what it works and what it will work for 7 generations to come? Not only tomorrow, but for the long future as well. And I love
Yes.
that. And for me, it's a core of the summit and organizing this, of like, how do we do this in a way that is grounding and nurturing. And yes. So thank you so much for bringing that grandmother energy forward, because yes.
Yeah, I think we have to bring people, back into the energy of tribe and community. On my sign back here, it says one breath. You probably can't see the whole thing, but it's one breath, one tribe, one love. And, that can sound idealistic, but, at one time on this planet, I mean, people were just humans. They weren't, different in that way. And then basically then there began to be different tribes and that sort of thing. And it's fine to be unique and to have your own culture and, and all those kinds of things. But ultimately, from my perspective, regardless of the color of our skin or our age or anything, I call it insignificant differences, you know, we're one spirit, we're that one love. We come from one source. And, if we really believed that, we couldn't put anybody in a cage of any kind, whether it's with a diagnosis or an actual still cage. We wouldn't put anybody in a cage of any kind. And, our hearts would be engaged and we would be using all the tools that we have to help each other heal and transform and understand that as we help as we heal ourselves and transform ourselves, our next responsibility is to support others in healing and transforming. And, that's really what it comes down to. It didn't have to be shamanic breathwork. It didn't have to be anything specific. It's just that I understood early on that in order to do the healing, that even though there was healing happening in the mental health center and in the treatment centers, and I still believe in those programs and things, and in hospitals, and obviously right now with people needing hospitalization and doctors and those sort of things, but we all know the shadow side of all that too. We know the shadow side of medicine, and the pharmacology is one of the biggest businesses, money-making businesses in the world. And I'm not against pharmacists or pharmacology or medicine making money, but when people can't afford medicine, or the kinds of medicines that are being given to people are meant specifically to keep them on those medicines for their whole lives, when you heal things with herbs frequently, and more natural medicines, you just use that during the interim of while you're ill, or while you're depressed, or while you're anxious, or while you have a cold, or whatever. And then when those symptoms begin to alleviate, you don't do it anymore. You might do certain things medicinally every day, like vinegar or something, but something that's not going to mess with your brain, not going to mess with your physical body, your kidneys, your liver, your heart. You don't have to read a disclaimer of these are the side effects this long that sound far worse than the thing you're treating, or to make people so drugged who are trying to deal with depression that all they do is sleep and gain 50 pounds. This is not medicine. This is not medicine. Medicine is about healing. It's not about the status quo or keeping people hooked on medicines. If you go to a medicine man or a medicine woman or a shaman, you go and you receive certain medicine, and then, you might use for a little while some herbs or something, and then you move on into health and wellness. So for me, as I said, it didn't have to be shamanic breathwork. It's shamanic breathwork for me because it works, and it works quickly. It seems to take people right to where they need to go, to get right to the point. And because I think one of the big things is because it's becoming from within the person instead of the therapist outside of them. Even though a breathwork facilitator is great doing body work and helping process and facilitate and being the shamanic force that's helping hold that ceremony for you, we also acknowledge that the person, even if it's the first time they've ever done this, that the shaman is also within them. The healer is within them, which is beautiful. And when people really learn that and believe that, they're empowered. And then nothing can stop them. Nothing can stop them when they realize they are directly connected to source.
Yes. And then they are possible, right? Like they can bring for everything that they need to bring forward and that we all need. So now I think it will be a great moment for sharing, so then people can have a taste of what shamanic breathwork is.
Yeah. So, when we do our breathwork ceremonies, they usually last anywhere, normally, as you know, anywhere from an hour. Sometimes we've even gone up to 2 hours. Years ago, we did 3 hours, and then people started getting it so quickly, we've reduced it down to 1 hour to 2 hours, depending on the kind of ceremonies we're doing. But I've also found that I can share it with people in like 5 minutes, you know, the breathing, and they'll come out. And honestly, I've done this even in bookstores and had people sitting around as I've given a book talk and then put some music on and had people breathe. And in 5 minutes, they come back and their eyes are like this and go, oh my God, I got to do more of this. You know, this is amazing, you know, with the breath. So, you know, I have a book called Shamanic Breathwork, Journeying Beyond the Limits of the Self, and it goes into great detail. And before we usually do ceremonies, you know, when we're doing a full on ceremony and then the art and the music and then processing and all that, we'd give a full on, usually about an hour talk. But today, since we're just doing a teaser or a little taste, I'm just going to say that when the purpose of the breathing is to breathe until you're surprised, just to breathe and to breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth like that. And to do that, to keep breathing until there's just something happening. And then if something's happening, you don't have to breathe anymore. You can just kind of let your breath go where it wants to. But if you're having a little trouble getting someplace, you just kind of breathe and just keep breathing and leave and have a clear mind. And that with that opening of your field and just letting go of your expectations, that something will come for you. I also invite people as they go in to do the breathing to just, you know, call in whatever you love. If it's your grandmother, if it's your dog, you know, if it's God, if it's, you know, Lady Guadalupe, you know, whatever it is to you, to call in what's sacred to you. Faces of your grandchildren, whatever it might be, your favorite tree, any deity that you're connected to, Buddha, Christ, whatever it might be. And just to call in any spirit guides and helpers that you might have. And you think, well, I don't know what a spirit helper is. Maybe you have a favorite symbol. You know, I have one man I just worked with, and his symbol was Batman as a little kid. I said, then call him Batman. And he called him Batman because he felt like Batman was a good guy and he was a superhero, and he called that in as a helper for him. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's. But the beginning of the breath work, you call in silently to yourself, your helpers and guides to protect and support you on your journey. And then we put on the music. And then when the music comes on, you just do that breathing, that cyclical breathing of, and you just breathe. And then you just let your mind be blank, even if it's talking to you. That's okay. You just let it talk and you just let things run across the screen of your consciousness and just relax into the breathing. And frequently, what will happen is all of a sudden you'll hear something or you'll see something or a place of peace comes over you. You'll have some sort of experience. And sometimes you just come back feeling all energized or tingly, or sometimes you come back and you have a sense that something happened and you don't remember what it was. And that's okay too. It's kind of like when you dream at night. But sometimes you come back with a really clear message, like I came back one time with the words, do it and do it now. And I was like, but what? You know? And then a few days, I knew exactly what it was. So it doesn't end just because we finish breathing. You activate something and it literally activates the chemicals in your brain and in your body that will release hallucinogens in your body, but they're natural. And so when you come out of the breath and you stop the breath work breathing, you have it for a little while, but not long, and then it begins to dissipate. So there's a way in which seeking chemicals and things outside of you isn't necessary because you already have those chemicals in your own brain that are ready to be released. So that's what we're going to do now, if you'd like to. Have people have the opportunity. So I'm going to here in just a moment. I'm going to gear this up and go down here. Find this song. So I'm going to invite people to wherever you are. Hopefully you're not driving, just to kick back. You can lie down if you want to, or you can sit in your chair, but just be comfy and close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath. And go ahead and call in what's sacred to you. Call in something that's special to you and sacred. any spirit guides or helpers. Surround yourself with the golden light of the sun and protection. And reflect for a moment if there's something that you want to ask for any kind of healing or support or help. And just kind of sending that out to the world, to your consciousness. And begin your breathing. Begin to breathe in and out, and in and out, and let the music take you. So take a nice big deep breath. Exhale fully. Let yourself very gently return. Feel your body. There might be any places stiff or aching. Kind of stretch. Move. You'll be sure to want to get a nice big drink of water or juice or something after this, and encourage people to even get some paper, put a circle on it. We like to do that with mandala. Put a plate down, put a circle on it, put some crayons or pencils or whatever you have, and you can journal on it. You can draw, do anything you want to, and just see what images come. See what words come and what feelings. You can put anything on that paper that you want to. And if you live with someone, you might say, I'd like to share something with you, and see if they'll listen to you, or perhaps you'll connect with our host here and set up a session at some point, if you're able to do that, or let her know how things went for you with this session. I always love to hear that as well. And journaling would be good, and watching your dreams and watch the little synchronicities that start showing up in your life every day after this. Watch the very thing that you saw that seemed really strange actually show up on a billboard or something. So, but let the breath work, just because you stopped doing the session right now, the process is still activated. So let it continue to inform you, and watch for the days ahead for a shift. And when something happens, it's like if it's kind of a big shift, kind of say, oh, and yes, I know where this got triggered or where it got turned on. And it happens all the time with people. So, and take good care of yourself. Do some nurturing. And as I said, lots of fluids.
Thank you so much. And then, of course, what you said, if anyone needs to contact us, and then especially like if it's in Spanish and of course in both languages, right? But then I'm totally here for anyone who wants to share, and like we would love to hear what it comes from this, of course. And then in that, if there is anyone interested in going further, because something that is very interesting that you always say about the psyche knows how deep you can go. And when I have hold the space, my first experience holding the space, I expected the same that in the training. And of course it's different because 2 weeks
Right.
immersed is a lot deeper than 1 2 hours. So if people really want to go deep, it normally requires time for that psyche to open up and to feel safe to really go there. And so I would love you to share what are your plans for 2021 and how people can go deeper with this work with you.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad you brought that up. And, at this moment, we're still in quarantine here in the United States. So we're doing things online. We actually are doing our 2-week SHIP program, what's a shamanic healing initiatory process, where we teach people, and you know this, you've been through these initiations, going through 5 initiations and going through a lot of different breathing sessions online. It's the 18th of January, so it's 14 days through the 31st of January. So we have an online program that's on our shamanicbreathwork.org. Shamanicbreathwork.org website, and go to the events page, and you'll see that if you're interested. If you're interested in more of just a taste of just a bigger taste than what you just had today, we're doing probably about a 45-minute to an hour breath work online in February. That's also on I can't remember the exact date. It's sponsored by the company that also does the Gathering of the Shamans in Sedona every year in Sedona, Arizona. And that's Insight Events. And that you'll see it on our website. That's in February. And this, we're planning in May to have a large event here here at our retreat center in North Carolina, if you happen to be in the United States or you come this way. And we'll be announcing some other things online as well between now and then. But I would also say, I'm going to turn this back to you. Are you doing some one-on-one sessions live for people yet with shamanic breathwork?
I haven't started online, but it's something that I'm totally open to do it. So if people are interested, I will totally. And then, especially like, of course, it's not that in English I wouldn't do it, but there is nobody doing it in Spanish. So that I feel even stronger to do it.
Yes,
Because
that's
it's
what I
like
was
nobody
thinking.
else is doing it. And
that would be so awesome. And in fact, if you had a group of people that you did some one days with, and then you wanted to, do something else, then we could do that together.
yes, yes. So if people are really interested, please write me an email. That will be also there. So then we know, and then we can arrange something. 100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And because it's beautiful how this is what is calling of us, this energy of like, we have a structure, but there is that flexibility within the structures because the times are
Yes.
changing so much. So it's like nobody knows exactly how 2021 is going to be. So it's good to be open to the magic of what unfolds.
I think that it's going to be a hybrid. I think that what we're learning is both and instead of either or. I think we're learning how to use the technology to travel around the world and to bring people in that normally couldn't make it to wherever, and that those who can get on a plane and come and be with us. So we've already had an experience of that this year, where we had a few people here in person for one of our trainings, and then and they'd all been doing social distancing and everything, so it was safe for them. And we did that, and then we had another 20 something from around the world on come on the internet. So we had on Zoom. So we had around I don't know, about close to 40 people all told, and it was a hybrid. And so I think that we're learning to be in all the worlds, and that's part of the initiation that we're going through right now. As much as it's painful and all this stuff, we have to look for what is the sacred purpose of this time. We're learning to contract in order to expand. If you want to take a big deep breath, you breathe, you contract first, you kind of go all the way out and then go, and then, so we're doing a great big letting go and then a big re-embodiment. So yeah, let's do it.
Yes, yes, totally. So it's like, and always like you, someone show up and is listening to us until this point, there is something for them there, right? So it's like, is yeah, just have the courage to follow those signs because then it's where things unfold. And one of the sentences that are very important for me also in the summit is like Walker. There's a poem in Spanish that is Walker, there is no path. The path is made by walking.
Yes, beautiful.
So it's this idea of like we don't have the final picture of what is coming until we start giving the first steps.
That's right. If you know where you're going, Grandmother Twila used to say, if you know where you're going, she used the word ain't. It ain't no place new.
Yes, yes.
And
And we are being called to
direction.
open and trailblaze different paths that they don't exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Is there any final thoughts that you would like to share?
The first thing I want to say is that we're all here not by accident. Even if your parents said they didn't plan you, you're not here by accident. So if we're not here by accident, we must be here on purpose. And so to be on purpose means to find out what our purpose is. And we don't have to know exactly what it is, but we do have to know what it feels like. And we'll know what it feels like because it will be the thing that makes us want to get up in the morning. It will be the thing that feels like our heart is open. It will be the thing that feels like it brings us healing. And it feels like it blesses others, whatever it is, whatever it is. But if we don't do that which we came here to do, we will never find fulfillment. We will never feel happy. There will always feel like something is missing, because that which we came to do is our beloved. And when we love ourselves enough to give ourselves permission to go against what everybody else thinks, okay, or says, or the naysayers, and to say, thank you very much for sharing, but that's not my truth. And I know that I'm here to bring this, you know, and I said this years ago, I would do shamanic breath work, even if I didn't have, you know, if I wasn't making a living at it, I would still do it. But I have been making my own living and caring for myself and others, my staff and my company and my people and my retreat for, you know, 30 years. And this is what I do full time. So at a time, nobody would pay to come to breathwork, and then people understood the value of what it was, you know, and what should we be putting our funds towards? You know what I'm saying? Towards our supplements, our health, our breathing, the experience, that which is going to help us to be fully who it is that we are. So keep breathing and keep believing in yourself and finding people who will cheerlead you on to the possible. And the very last thing is one of my favorite quotes, and I don't know who said it first, but I heard it many years ago and I have it on my fireplace. The impossible just takes a little longer.
Love it. Thank you so much for everything. Not only for today, of course, like thank you from the deepest part of me. And thank you for everyone who is listening to us as well for being there. And we are possible, right? We can do this. So we just need each other. We cannot do it
Yes.
alone anymore. Those times are gone. Yeah, thank you.